Ayanam namaskrityam nara chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudiraye nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, we were supposed to start with the 14th text. Yeah, we'll just read the 14th text. Yeah. तवाप्येतर्हि कौरव्य सप्ताहं जीवितावधि उपकल्प्य तत्सर्वं तावत् यत् संपरायिकम्. Sushil Prabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Maharaja Parikshit, now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life. Purport. Sukdev Goswami, after citing the example of Maharaja Khatavanga, who prepared himself for the next life within a very short time, encouraged Maharaja Parikshit by saying that since he still had 7 days at his disposal, he could easily take advantage of the time to prepare himself for the next life. Indirectly, the Goswami told Maharaja Parikshit that he should take shelter of the sound representation of the Lord for the 7 days, still remaining in the duration of his life, and thus get himself liberated. In other words, everyone can best prepare himself for the next life simply by hearing Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, as it was recited by Sukdev Goswami to Maharaja Parikshit. The rituals are not formal, but there are also some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out as instructed hereafter. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So, as I was mentioning yesterday, that actually Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ends over here only at this particular shloka. Why? Because Shukdev Goswami has given to Parikshit the topmost path or the limb of devotional service, that is chanting. So, this is what, Shukdev Goswami is telling Parikshit that this is what you should do and this is what you should not do. What should we hear and what we should not hear. So, this is not a very narrow path that, he's saying that I have given. Whether one is a Sankhya yogi, Jnana yogi, Ashtanga yogi, he has to follow this path only. And many people have given up, their paths and have taken up to this particular path and they have achieved perfection. So Shukdev Goswami is saying that I am the example of this particular path that I have given. The topmost path is Harinam Sankirtan. And to perfect this path, one muhurta is, ideally sufficient. But see, you have 7 days. Therefore, make sufficient, arrangements. I have given you this path and that's how you will go back to Godhead. So this particular, in this particular shloka, Prabhupada is mentioning this word called sound representation of the Lord for 7 days. So sound representation means only chanting of the holy names of the Supreme Lord. And this is what is being given over here. So only by, chanting the holy names of the Lord, a particular person can go back home, back to Godhead. This is what Shukdev Goswami is trying to tell Parikshit Maharaj. So now next he says, very nice shloka. This is a parallel shloka to the Bhagavad-gītā shloka where Krishna in 8.5 tells Antakale cha mam emam smaranam muktva kalevaram. Antakale tu purusha agate gata sadhava saha chindyat asanga shastrena spriham dehe anuyechatam. Lakshminarayan Rao, please read the translation and purport, both.
Hare Krishna Dhamma.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, the translation. At the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough to be afraid of death.
Not be afraid of death.
Sorry, Mataji. Yeah, bold enough not to be afraid of death. But one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. Purport. The foolishness of gross materialism is that people think of making a permanent settlement in this world. Although it is a subtle fact that one has to give up everything here that has been created by valuable human energy. Great statesmen, scientists, philosophers, etc., who are foolish without any information of the spirit soul, think that this life of a few years only is all in all and that there is nothing more after death. This poor fund of knowledge, even in the so-called learned circles of the world, is killing the vitality of human energy, and the awful result is being keenly felt. And yet the foolish materialistic men do not care about what is going to happen in the next life. The preliminary instruction in the Bhagavad-gītā is that one should know that the identity of the individual living entity is not lost even after the end of this present body, which is nothing but an outward dress only. As one changes an old garment, so the individual living being also changes his body, and this change of body is called death. Death is therefore a process of changing the body at the end of the duration of the present life. An intelligent person must be prepared for this and must try to have the best type of body in the next life. The best type of body is a spiritual body, which is obtained by those who go back to the kingdom of God or enter the realm of Brahman. In the second chapter of this canto, this matter will be broadly discussed, but as far as the change of the body is concerned, one must prepare now for the next life. Foolish people attach more importance to the present temporary life, and thus the foolish leaders make appeals to the body and the bodily relations. The body relations extend not only to this body, but also to the family members, wife, children, society, country, and so many other changes will end at the end of life. After death, one forgets everything about the present bodily relations. We have a little experience of this at night when we go to sleep. While sleeping, we forget everything about this body and body relations, although this forgetfulness is a temporary situation for only a few hours. Death is nothing but sleeping for a moment, for a few months, in order to develop another term of bodily engagement, which we were awarded by the law of nature according to our aspiration. Therefore, one has only to change the aspiration during the course of this present body, and for this there is need of training in the current duration of human life. This training can be begun at any stage of life or even a few seconds before death. But the usual procedure is for one to get the training from very early life, from the stage of brahmacharya, and gradually progress to the grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa orders of life. The institution which gives such training is called varnashrama dharma, or the system of sanatana dharma, the best procedure for making the human life perfect. One is therefore required to give up the attachment to family or social or political life just at the age of 50 years, if not earlier, and the training in the vanaprastha and sannyasa ashramas is given for preparation of the next life. Foolish materialists, in the grab of leaders of the people in general, stick to family affairs without attempting to cut off relations with them, and thus they become victims of nature's law and get gross bodies again. According to their work, such foolish leaders may have some respect from the people at the end of life, but that does not mean that such leaders will be immune to the nature laws under which everyone is tightly bound by the hands and feet. The best thing is therefore that everyone voluntarily give up family relations by transferring the attachment from family, society, country, and everything thereof to the devotional service of the Lord. It is stated herein that one should give up all desires of family attachment. One must have a chance for better desires. Otherwise, there is no chance of giving up such morbid desires. Desire is the concomitant factor of the living entity. The living entity is eternal, and therefore his desires, which are natural for a living being, are also eternal. One cannot therefore stop desiring, but the subject matter for desires can be changed. So one must develop the desires for returning home back to Godhead. And automatically, the desires for material gain, material honor, and material popularity will diminish in proportion to the development of the devotional service. A living being is meant for service activities, and his desires are centered around such a service attitude. Beginning from the top executive head of the state down to the insignificant pauper in the street, all are rendering some sort of service to others. The perfection of such service attitude is only attained simply by transferring the desire of service from matter to spirit, or from Saturn to God. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. This word over here, desire, is the concomitant factor of living entity. Actually, concomitant means it is naturally accompanying, or it is associated with the living entity. So only we have to change our desires from matter to spirit. So if you see in this particular shloka that there are when actually Shukdev Goswami is giving this knowledge to Parikshit Maharaj, there were many sages who were gathered at that place with Parikshit Maharaj, and not everybody accepted this path as the topmost, the chanting of the holy name. And these were very highly accomplished persons, and no intelligent person wants to accept anything dogmatically. So dogmatic means actually blindly accepting actually. So this kind of approval does not always work, and who will accept things blindly. So anything present, if anybody is presenting or is presented dogmatic, it turns off intelligent people. So therefore this subject matter, even though he is going to present the same point, but he has to present it in a way that is appealing to a very wider audience. So there were many people who were of the idea of practicing Ashtanga Yoga to achieve liberation, and that is why liberation is the highest path. There were many people who thought that maybe demigod worship is to attain Swarga, it is the highest. So Shukdev Goswami, in order to establish the fact of this superiority of bhakti, has to very systematically present by comparing and contrasting with the other paths also. Then it is a very appealing concept, and then everyone can accept this particular path. So for us also, it is all the other paths are compared and then given, and we also get very confident that yes, the path that I have chosen is the correct path. And now suddenly Shukdev Goswami starts speaking about Ashtanga Yoga. So he's about Ashtanga Yoga to achieve liberation. But this is done for the purpose of comparing the other paths with bhakti, and systematically he's establishing the superiority of bhakti so that the presentation is very appealing to the. So for any Purana to be classified as a Mahapurana, it should fulfill many parameters that they have: Sarga, Visarga, Sthanam, Poshanam. But what distinguishes Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam from the other Puranas is the what do you say, purpose for which the 9 topics actually are described. So and of course ashray being the the prime topic. So what is the purpose of these 9 topics that it has been described in the Bhagavatam? So it the 9 topics, this distinguishes Bhagavatam from all the other Puranas by Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam's own admission. So if so for example, I have to glorify a devotee from IIT, okay. So then, I have to speak very highly about, this so-and-so person, X person is to my friend, he's from USA, but the person sitting, there does not know that, what is IIT. So he has, he has to be told about, IIT, it's the first most, premier institute in India, and the top only 1% cream people enter this IIT. After passing, this is the job they get, they get a very handsome pay package. Or for so many of, they go abroad to do higher studies. So then, why am I glorifying this IIT so much? So that this friend of mine, he can understand the true glory of that particular other person who is in IIT. So glorification of IIT may seem like, why is there glorification of IIT when my purpose of glorification is to is just to like so I am glorifying, I have to glorify the 9 topics so that the true glory of that 10th topic of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is Ashray Tattva, can be appreciated sufficiently enough. So when we hear about Krishna creating the universal form from his pores, and the same Krishna came on the back of Garuda to save this elephant, it has an effect. Then it becomes very much easier for us to appreciate, and then we can think that everything is possible. Then it is created with the right the right emotions are there. So like how it is actually works on our consciousness and transforms us much more on a deeper subject, rather which Bhagavatam understands. So we may not be able to perfectly appreciate it at this point of time on canto number 2. Therefore the 9 topics in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, they are described in such a way that the true glory of this 10th topic, that is Ashray Tattva, or the 10th canto, can come out very beautifully. And therefore all the other 9 topics are like, everyday morning, we go take darshan of the deities or Radha Krishna, and then we are amazed seeing the beauty of, Shri Radha Krishna. But what we don't notice is that in order to bring out this beauty of Radha Krishna, there are many focus lights in the altar fitted, at very strategic positions, which can, shine, that light on that appropriate light on the bodily parts of the Lord and the background. Since I do deity dressing, so I can give you this only example, because I was seeing, so many lights are there in the altar. When we climb up, we are seeing so many lights. So, that beauty can be perfectly appreciated by all of us. So if these focus lights are either improperly placed, or if they don't function it's not that Radha and Krishna, they become any less beautiful. They have the same, beauty, but our ability to appreciate that beauty is actually compromised because we have not yet reached that level as such. So, Srila Rupa Goswami, he says the description in this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam are not given to everybody indiscriminately. In Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, he explains that, he explains this actually, this apparent contradiction. At one point, it is mentioned that there is no disqualification for the practice of bhakti. He quotes from Padma Purana, one shloka, that what is the adhikar for the practice of bhakti. He says that he has just to be a human being, and then he gives an interesting example to properly explain this point. Just like in the month of Magh, in the coldest of winter, everyone is qualified to go and take a bath in the ice cold, frigid waters of this Ganga. So he just has to, be a human being. But can everyone go and take a bath in that ice cold water of Ganga? So when the scriptures say that there is no material, disqualification, everyone is qualified for bhakti, it means that there is no material disqualification. But the same scriptures in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu also talks about qualification for bhakti. So Rupa Goswami says that so we have to get this qualification for bhakti somehow by the association of devotees. If we get faith in hearing, chanting, then he has this adhikar to practice bhakti. Somehow that faith has to be, you can say, dawn in him, in the limbs of this bhakti. If he gets that, then that is the adhikar, or that is the qualification. So one earns that adhikar or that qualification by the association of devotees only. So how, it's very mystery how devotees also create an opportunity for that living entity to earn this agyata sukruti. So for a person who has, who has has no bhakti, for him to accept the path of bhakti, he has to earn that agyata sukruti. Like for example, by creating an opportunity to just relish something related to Krishna, and present it. So Rupa Goswami says that over lifetimes of accumulation of this particular sukruti, it matures. That sukruti will then mature into shraddha, and then that shraddha is the qualification for bhakti. So it's just like, it's like a piggy bank you have been given. So this is agyat sukruti. Agyat sukruti means somebody is just watering tulsi plant, somebody just has prasadam, somebody just offers flower or a lamb to the Lord. So this agyat sukruti is like an opportunity to appreciate something that is related to Krishna. Is like putting 1 rupee in the piggy bank. So when that reaches to a particular you can say threshold, then it matures into faith, and it may happen in this lifetime or future many lifetimes also. So example, like during Srila Prabhupada's time, not all took up to bhakti at that time. Then but 20 years later, people started appreciating, and how that faith dawned upon it has two very significant effects on this particular or the preacher. So when the preacher is able to influence people to take up to the path of devotional service, he is able to make them chant, make them to accept this process of devotional service. Yeah, he understands that yes, there are so many other devotees, so many lifetimes. They have also contributed to this accumulation of Agyat Sukruti. So not only, for example, somebody is preaching and he thinks, oh, I have made these devotees and they have, but no, the preacher should understand that I am just one insignificant person over here, but this person, if he has taken up to chanting, in his picky bank, there is so much of Agyat Sukruti, there are so many people involved. So the devotee does not become, proud that, I made him a devotee. So many a times, somebody very swiftly becomes a devotee in just 1 month, 16 rounds. And then we may think that, oh, wow, did I have so much potency to convert him into a devotee? So what we don't realize and physically see is what we don't realize that how much money is there, so much sukruti is there in his picky bank. So when we understand that how this faith dawns upon a person, then we don't have to become, unnecessarily proud. We understand that it is Krishna's mercy that he has sent one such 99% devotee in order to encourage me in my devotional service and my preaching endeavors. And secondly is that if someone is preaching, you will not have a stereotypical you can say that understanding of what is success in preaching. So how many 16 rounders did you make? That need not be a parameter for success also. Therefore, if Krishna wants, he may send people who are just 30%, 20%, and all we need to do is to them is to just create facility for them to somehow appreciate some aspect of devotional service. So when we create that facility, then that is preaching. That preaching may fructify either in this lifetime or in the next lifetime or few other lifetimes. But we need not own that particular person or that devotee. So if we create a facility for them to appreciate some aspect of devotion, actually that is only preaching. Giving them prasadam, giving them some photographs, that is also, so I am an ineffective preacher if people don't take up to eventually chanting by my preaching. So Rupa Goswami says, he says that it takes many lifetimes to reach that chanting stage. The subtle body is actually very quite heavy. What we have accumulated over millions of lifetimes, both the sukrutis and the unfavorable impressions are too much. What we take for granted, like, isn't it, obvious, the personal form, it clearly is given in the Bhagavad-gītā that it might be easy to accept, but not like that, that one should have that sukruti to reach that threshold of faith, from where we can actually appreciate from what it is. So the eyes, the way Krishna wants us to see, one has to earn it. And so therefore, even though Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a person, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a Paramhamsa Samhita. Of course, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a person, is Krishna himself. So even though Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a Paramhamsa Samhita, but there are other descriptions, because Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam understands that not everyone may be qualified to accept the path of pure devotional service. So in Canto 1, Vidura gave, Dhritarashtra, what we read, when Dhritarashtra quits home. So Vidura gave Dhritarashtra Ashtanga Yoga Gyan. So pure devotee Vidura gave a not so pure devotional path to follow to Dhritarashtra to achieve liberation. So why did Vidura give that, pure devotional path to Dhritarashtra? Because he had committed so many offenses towards the Pandavas that it would not be possible for him to accept that path of pure devotional service. So Bhagavatam is a Paramhamsa Samhita. It takes people from wherever they are, whichever point they are, whether they are Karma Yogis, Jnana Yogis, Ashtanga Yogis, whatever they are. So wherever they are, they may be at maybe Karma Yoga level, Jnana Yoga level. And it will take them to the ultimate perfection. So therefore, such descriptions are there so that it is very, all encompassing. It is open to, it is open to all. It is not only open to, the elite class people, but it is open to all those who want to join the elite, and whatever may be one's, starting position. Therefore, even the second canto, chapter 1, now this chapter is entitled The First Step in God Realization. So if, you are stepping, you are, welcome. We will, take you till the 10th canto. That is the Ashray canto. So even Bhagavad-gītā also talks about the other paths. Therefore, acharyas have, written books which are extracted, which, they have extracted only pure devotional service teachings from the Shastras, and it has been compiled into one book. And if one particular person or a devotee becomes qualified to practice pure devotional service, then the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu book is for all of us. And therefore, the first definition, Srila Rupa Goswami starts with Anya Bilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Navritam. He starts with that definition. So he does not define bhakti. He defines Uttama Bhakti. What is the best bhakti? One would, think that why bhakti is not defined before, Uttam Bhakti. He says that no, this book is not for them, not for whom, not for the mixed practitioners. Pure practitioners, this book is only for the pure practitioners, and it is meant only for those who are doing pure devotional service. But Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, such a wonderful book this is. It is understanding, and it accepts that, okay, there are so many categories of people with a desire to achieve, the highest perfection. So Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is encouraging everybody, and that is only the beautiful nature of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, that it is encouraging every person to take up to pure devotional service. So this is what actually, this particular 15th shloka is in a nutshell telling that how Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is going to cater to everybody's needs. It's not only the pure devotional pure devotees, going to cater to even the other yogis also. Sorry for that long explanation, but I thought that I should be giving that explanation. Grihat prajito dhira punya tirtha jalapluta sauchau vivikta asino vidhivat kalpitasane. Rupa Mataji, please read the translation and purport.
Hare Krishna. .16 Translation. One should leave home and practice self-control. In a sacred place, he should bathe regularly and sit down in a lonely place duly sanctified. Purport. To prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of one's so-called home. The system of Varnashrama Dharma or Sanatana Dharma prescribes retirement from family encumbrances as early as possible after one has passed 50 years of age. Modern civilization is based on family comforts, the highest standard of amenities, and therefore, after retirement, everyone expects to live a very comfortable life in a well furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children, without any desire to get out of such a comfortable home. High government officers and ministers stick to their prize post until death, and they never dream nor desire to get out of homely comforts. Bound by such hallucinations, materialistic men prepare various plans for a still more comfortable life. But suddenly, cruel death comes without mercy and takes away the great plan maker against his desire, forcing him to give up the present body for another body. Such a plan maker is thus forced to accept another body in one of the 8,400,000 lakh species of life according to the fruits of the work he has performed. In the next life, persons who are too much attached to family comforts are generally awarded lower species of life on account of sinful acts performed during a long duration of sinful life, and thus all the energy of the human life is spoiled. In order to be saved from the danger of spoiling the human form of life and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not early. The principle is that one should take it for granted that death warning is already there even prior to the attainment of 50 years of age, and thus, at any stage of life, one should prepare himself for a better next life. The system of the Sanatana Dharma institution is so made that the follower is trained for the better next life without any chance that the human life will be spoiled. The holy places all over the world are meant for the residential purposes of retired persons getting ready for a better next life. Intelligent person must go there at the end of life, and for that matter after 50 years of age, to live a life of spiritual regeneration for the sake of being freed from family attachment, which is considered to be the shackle of material life. One is recommended to quit home just to get rid of material attachment, because one who sticks to family life until death cannot get rid of material attachment, and as long as one is materially attached, one cannot understand the spiritual freedom. One should not, however, become self complacent simply by leaving home or by creating another home at the holy place, either lawfully or unlawfully. Many persons leave home and go to such holy places, but due to bad association again become family men by illicit connection with opposite sex. The illusionary energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. Therefore, it is essential that one practice self control by celibacy without the least desire for sex indulgence. For a man desiring to improve the condition of his existence, sex indulgence is considered suicidal or even worse. Therefore, to live apart from family life means to become self controlled in regard to all sense desires, especially sex desires. The matter is that one should have a duty sanctified sitting place made of straw, deerskin, and carpet, and thus sitting on it, one should chant the holy name of Lord without offense, as prescribed above. The whole process is to drag the mind from material engagements and fix it on the lotus feet of the Lord. This simple process alone will help one advance to the highest stage of spiritual success. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So actually from text number 16 to 18, we will see all the 8 stages of Ashtanga Yoga. And this particular shlok says about Yam, Niyam, Asana. So this particular shlok is speaking about that. And we will see actually with, there is one shloka. I'll just give me 1 second, okay? It is, this is Canto 3, okay, Canto 3, I think it is 28th chapter. 28th chapter, what is the shloka number? It is 34 or 35. 34, 35. Yeah, perfect. This is the correct shloka. Yeah. See. By following this course, the yogi gradually develops pure love for the Supreme Lord Hari. In the course of this progress in devotional service, the hairs on his body stand erect through excessive joy, and he is constantly bathed in streams of tears occasioned by intense love. Gradually, even the mind which is used as a means to attract the Lord, as one attracts a fish to a hook, withdraws from material activity. Let's read the purport over here, what Prabhupada is saying. That, see, because this is Ashtanga Yoga, here it is clearly mentioned that meditation, which is an action of the mind, is not the perfect stage of samadhi or absorption. In the beginning, the mind is employed in attracting the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but in the higher stages, there is no question of using the mind. A devotee becomes accustomed to serving the Supreme Lord by purification of his senses. In other words, the yoga principles of meditation are required as long as one is not situated in pure devotional service. The mind is used to purify the senses. When the senses are purified by meditation, there is no need to sit in a particular place and try to meditate upon the form of the Lord. One becomes so habituated that he automatically engages in the personal service of the Lord. When the mind forcibly is engaged upon the form of the Lord, this is called Nirbija Yoga or lifeless yoga. For the yoga does not automatically engage in personal service of the Lord. But when he is constantly thinking of the Lord, that is called Sabija Yoga or living yoga. One has to be promoted to the platform of living yoga. One should engage in the service of the Lord 24 hours a day, as confirmed in Brahma Samhita, the stage of Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadeva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achinta Guna Swarupam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, can be attained by developing complete love. When one's love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service is fully developed, one always sees the Lord even without artificially meditating on his form. Because the Ashtanga yogis, they have to meditate on the four-handed form of the Lord. His vision is divine because he has no other engagement. So this is the Prabhupada is talking about the devotee. Why? Because artificially we don't meditate. Automatically, when we are chanting, the form of the Lord is there in front of us. This stage of spiritual realization is not necessary to engage the mind artificially. Since the meditation recommended in the lower stages is a means to come to the platform of devotional service, those already engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord are above such meditation. This stage of perfection is called Kṛṣṇa consciousness. Why? Because all the time we are thinking about Kṛṣṇa. 24/7 we are making plans. Okay, how will I preach? Okay, now what will I do? Okay, next program, next festival. Now book distribution. Now, Rath Yatra will come in the month of June. Snan Yatra is there on 4th of June or 5th of June. Now what will I do? Then Rath Yatra is coming. Then Janmashtami is coming. Then Balram Purnima. Then Radhashtami. All the time we are making plans for preaching. All the time devotees are making plans that how will I connect people to Kṛṣṇa? How will I give them Agyat Sukruti? How will I facilitate people to take up to Kṛṣṇa consciousness? So, of course, that is meditation on the Supreme Lord. And in the next shloka also, he is saying that when the mind is thus completely freed from all material contamination and detached from material objectives. Why? Because when you connect to the spiritual objective, then you don't require the lower taste. It is just like the flame of a lamp. At that time, the mind is actually dovetailed with that of the Supreme Lord and is experienced as one with him because it is freed from the interactive flow of the material qualities. So in the material world, the activities of the mind are acceptance and rejection. You accept or either you reject. The mind has two functions. As long as the mind is in the material consciousness, it must be forcibly trained to accept meditation on the Supreme Lord. So every day morning when we are chanting, what are we trying to do? We are trying to forcibly train our mind to accept meditation on the Supreme Lord. But when one is actually elevated to the loving the Supreme Lord, the mind is automatically absorbed in the thought of the Lord. Like if you see Ganga is incessantly flowing and she wants to, gush very heavily into the Bay of Bengal. So similarly, the mind is just gushing towards Krishna. The mind is hankering for Krishna. The mind wants to just love Krishna. Like for example, if you see in when a horse is running in the race course, the horse has a blinkers. Okay, blinker means what? The horse should not get attracted to any she horse or any other she horses, left and right to that. And that is why this horse has a blinker. So similarly, the mind will have blinkers. The mind will not see any material thing. The mind will just gush towards Krishna incessantly. In such a position, a yogi has no other thought than to serve the Lord. This is what I was saying, that devotees will just think, next what, next what, next what, and if something they don't have, then they will create some preaching opportunity or serving opportunity. Or devotees might just, at their own homes, they might, organize some kirtan programs or some, house programs or any other programs just to get people connected to Krishna consciousness. So this dovetailing of the mind with the desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called nirvana, or making the mind one with the Supreme Lord. So they say that I and my Father are one. But the saying is that the meaning of that actually saying is, if I and my Father are one, means I and my Father are one in mission. So making the mind one with the Supreme Lord means only to follow the instructions of the Supreme Lord. What is the Supreme Lord desiring? What are his internal desires? Let me understand that and let me please the Supreme Lord. So in the Bhagavad-gītā, Kṛṣṇa is given that, okay, anybody is preaching this particular knowledge is the most dearest to me. Okay, that is the mind of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord he wants to reclaim all his lost children. So, okay, let me help. The best example of nirvana is cited in the Bhagavad-gītā. In the beginning, the mind of Arjuna deviated from Krishna's. Krishna wanted Arjuna to fight, but Arjuna did not want to. So there was a disagreement. Okay, so the mind can be compared to to Arjuna. Mind does not want to agree. But after hearing the Bhagavad-gītā from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna dovetailed his mind with Krishna's desire. This is called oneness. This oneness, however, did not cause Arjuna and Krishna to lose their individualities. The Mayavada philosophers cannot understand this. They think that oneness necessitates a loss of individuality. Actually, however, we find in the Bhagavad-gītā that individuality is not lost. So when the mind is completely purified in love of God, the mind becomes the mind of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What a beautiful statement. What a wonderful, line this is. We should mark it actually. The mind at that time does not act separately, nor does it act without inspiration to fulfill the desire of the Lord. So what is it? This is what I was trying. What is the desire of the Lord? So the individual liberated soul has no other activity. Prati nivritta guna pravaha. In the conditioned state, the mind is always engaged in activity impelled by the three modes of material nature. But in the transcendental stage, the material modes cannot disturb the mind of the devotee. Why? Because he has transcended all the three modes and he is into Shuddha Sattva level. The devotee has no other concern than to satisfy the desires of the Lord. So this is actually, the highest stage. That is the highest stage of perfection. It's called Nirvana or Nirvana Mukti. At this stage, the mind becomes completely free from material desires. See, what is material desire? No, for example, somebody has a material desire means he wants to do sense gratification. He wants to satisfy his senses. But in spiritual life, we want to satisfy Krishna's senses. We want to give pleasure to Krishna. Okay. And in giving pleasure to Krishna, by default, Krishna also gives us pleasure. So, yatharcheha, Archi means flame. When the lamp is broken or the oil is finished, we see that the flame of the lamp goes out. But according to scientific understanding, the flame is not extinguished. It is conserved. This is conservation of energy. Similarly, when the mind stops functioning on the material platform, it is conserved in the activities of the Supreme Lord. The Mayavadi philosopher's conception of cessation of the functions of the mind is explained here. Cessation of the mental function means cessation of activities conducted under the influence of the three modes of material nature. So this is a little elaborate explanation for shloka number 16. So very beautiful this shloka is, and the other two shlokas that we read, these are also very wonderful shlokas. Let's go to the 17th one. Abhyasena manasa shuddham trivruddh brahmaksharam param mano yachchedjita swaso brahma bijam vismaran. Yeah, somebody read the translation. Anuprabhu, please read the translation and purport both.
Translation. After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters A, U, Ma, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed. Purport. Omkar, or the Pranav, is the seed of transcendental realization, and it is composed of the three transcendental letters, A, U, Ma. By its chanting by the mind, in conjunction with the breathing process, which is a transcendental but mechanical way of getting into trance, as devised by the experience of great mystics, one is able to bring the mind, which is materially absorbed, under control. This is the way of changing the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped, but to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, the quality of engagement by the mind has to be changed. The mind is the pivot of the active sense organs, and as such, if the quality of thinking, feeling, and willing is changed, naturally the quality of actions by the instrumental senses will also change. Omkar is the seed of all transcendental sound, and it is only the transcendental sound which can bring about the desired change of the mind and the senses. Even a mentally deranged man can be cured by treatment of transcendental sound. In the Bhagavad-gītā, the prana of Omkar has been accepted as the direct, literal representation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. One who is not able to chant directly the holy name of the Lord, as recommended above, can easily chant the prana of Omkar. This Omkar is a note of address, such as, O my Lord, just as Om Hari Om means, O my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with the Lord himself. So also is Omkar. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses, in other words, the neophytes, are trained to the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process of regulating the breathing function and simultaneously repeating the prana of Omkar within the mind. As we have several times expressed, since the transcendental name, form, attributes, pastimes, etc. of the personality of Godhead are impossible to understand with the present material senses, it is necessary that through the mind, the center of sensual activities, such transcendental realization be set into motion. The devotees directly fix their minds on the person of the Absolute Truth, but one who is unable to accommodate such personal features of the Absolute is disciplined in impersonality to train the mind to make further progress.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So actually, in Ashtanga Yoga, you go from a grosser level to a subtler level. So like over here, it said that if you see the shloka, Abhyasena Manasa Shuddham. So he's saying that when in Ashtanga Yoga, you have this pranayam also. So pran has this capacity to control the mind. So when you're breathing is actually important in Ashtanga Yoga. So breathing is important, and then the mind will, control the senses. So if you see, when you do pranayam, as I always tell, that pranayam will actually calm the mind. But the Hare Krishna Mahamantra will purify the mind of all its contamination. And that is why we give prime importance to the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Let's go to the next. The 18th shloka. Okay, yeah. Nyached vishayayebhyo kshan manasa buddhi sarathi mana karma bhir akshiptam shubharthe dharaye dhiya. Priyanka, please read the translation and purport both.
Yes, ma'am. Translation. Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, withdraw it from sense activities, and by intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, too, absorbed in material activities, can be engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness. Purport. The first process of spiritualizing the mind by mechanical chanting of the prana omkar and by control of the breathing system is technically called the mystic or yogic process of pranayam, or fully controlling the breathing air. The ultimate state of this pranayam system is to be fixed in trance, technically called samadhi. But experience has proven that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, became a victim of the senses and cohabited with Menaka. History has already recorded this. The mind, although ceasing to think of sensual activities at present, remembers past sensual activities from the subconscious status and thus disturbs one from 100% engagement in self-realization. Therefore, Shukadeva Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely to fix one's mind in the service of the personality of Godhead. Lord Śrī Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also recommends this direct process in the Bhagavad-gītā 6.47. Thus, the mind being spiritually cleansed, one should at once engage himself in the transcendental loving service of the Lord by the different devotional activities of hearing, chanting, etc. If performed under proper guidance, that is the surest path of progress, even for the disturbed mind. Thank you, Hari.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So this nature of samadhi is that the mind becomes so focused that any external impedance cannot affect that particular person. But here, Srila Prabhupada is giving the example of Vishwamitra. If you see, he's saying Vishwamitra about it, even in the stage of samadhi becomes a victim of the senses. So he's saying that he got affected, which means that again it is a relative usage. Your very top quality, like Shamanand Prabhuji, who's a brahmachari in Radha Gopinath temple, he gives this example of terminologies. So when we go to this 5-star hotel, and they have some deluxe rooms. So then you have deluxe rooms, some super deluxe rooms also. So if you go to a regular hotel, they also have a deluxe and super deluxe rooms. So it is like a super deluxe compared to that of a low level of hotel, like, So, and if the hotel, if you see, if that hotel is compared to a 5-star hotel, then it is very, horrible that it is true that by, like practice of Ashtanga Yoga, this kama, lobha, they get suppressed. But to have a deeper impact on the level of this, on the level of the soul, for the soul to become actually satisfied, only by, you can say, Krishna's seva or Mukunda's seva, it is possible, and the other paths, they have the capability, but it is limited. So Srila Prabhupada, is writing in the pulpit that this example of, alum in water. So all the, impurities, they settle down. But if you shake the water again, okay, then all the impurities will come up again. And that's why, the best course is that we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So everywhere Prabhupada will keep on telling, okay, chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the best course over here. So dear devotees, we'll just halt over here and we'll meet tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. Yeah. So we'll meet tomorrow and we'll continue from text number 19. I just wanted to take a poll from everybody that is this pace okay, or should we go at a little more faster pace? What are your views on this? Please help me understand your mind on this. Have I unmuted everybody? Yeah.
This will be good, I think.
This is good enough, Prabhu?
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah,
Very
because
clear explanation.
we'll be understanding also in detail explanation, because many times we just keep on reading, but we don't understand what we are reading many a times. And even for me also, that if you're reading line to line, but then if I'm not understanding, then I won't relish Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. When can we relish Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam? When we are able to understand line by line, then we'll be able to understand relish Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Sushil Prabhu, what is your view on this, Prabhuji? So I'm not trying to impose.
Mataji, it is okay, Mataji, this page is okay.
Because if you have any difference of opinion, then maybe we can catch up, with your desire also. It's not like that I'll be just imposing my thoughts on that. Rupa Mataji, Priyanka Mataji, are you okay?
Yes, Mataji. I think this is sorry. Yeah, I think this is fine. Like a detailed explanation was more required.
Yeah, yeah. Anup Prabhu, what is your say on this, Prabhuji?
I think it's good, Mataji, because as much as reading is important, it's also important to understand what you were reading, and that's what you give us, Mataji. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. And Rupa Mataji, I think she's driving. Maybe she won't be able to answer.
Mataji, yes, Mataji, I like the pace that you're going.
Yeah, so this is what actually even I was thinking. From 2 days, I was having this, I was feeling guilty conscious, and it just struck me in the morning. I said that I should ask. It should not that be that I'm imposing my thoughts on everybody. But yeah, so if we all are on the same pace and on the same line, then I think we'll go with this pace only. Okay. Thank you, dear devotees. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Pranam, Dandavat.
Thank you.